Hello and welcome to How Did They Do That? Basically, a station where we're going to talk about how people have been able to overcome life's challenges, trauma, abuse, just not an ideal beginning to this life, basically, right? So, a lot of people are really, successful and have done things, and no one knows their backstory, right? They don't know the victories they've had to have and the things that they've been able to go through. And we want to know. We want to just be 100. We want to make it very, very clear that, hey, we've all have had to overcome some things, no matter how fabulous a person is. And that's what this show is going to be about. We're going to interview people who are magnificent, and we're going to get their backstory and see how did they do that, right? How did they make it to where they are, considering where they had started, where they've come from, and where we're going, right? So again, welcome.
Today, I have the wonderful pleasure of interviewing and discussing with Miss Felicia Thomas, who is a licensed MFT, marriage family therapist. With well over 20 years of experience as a licensed therapist, as mentioned, she has dedicated her life to guiding others on the journey of healing and self discovery. Her path has not always been easy, like many of us. She has faced many traumas and challenges. However, through resilience and self compassion, she has transformed those struggles into triumphs. She believes in the power of healing with the strength to overcome life hurdles. Her passion is to share what she has learned, to support and to inspire you and others to find your light and live your most authentic life. Together, we can build a community where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued. With that, we both say welcome to a space where healing is possible and hope is always within reach. So let's begin. How did they do that? So, with this being a safe place for us to have open conversations, I wanted to begin with some simple questions first. Okay. So, Miss Felicia, fellow licensed therapist, not going to dig too deep, but just want to get to know you. Okay. So, I want you to first define survivor in your own terms. Define that, please.
Survivor, huh? Well, I would say a person that experiences something outside of a healthy encounter
Okay.
and get
Okay.
through it, come through on the other side with a learned lesson, skill, or ideology that will help them to create the life that they want.
Okay. So something that helped you to you've gone through some things to help you to survive. So what was one of the most intriguing incidents, traumatic experiences that led you to this field of mental health?
Well, that's a loaded question because my whole life from stem to stern did that. I will say it started with, I guess, being born into the foster care system in California and being placed in a extremely abusive foster home and knowing from the time I was a toddler that I was in trouble. Just knew from jump that my foster mother was not an okay person. And
Hmm.
from that moment to this, it has been a series of things that have occurred that helped me, taught me, hurt me, and encouraged me, things and people. No specific event because there are several different traumas and several different things that I've had to overcome in my childhood, of course, being displaced and being placed in a extremely toxic and abusive environment was a pivotal jumping off point
Okay.
for my mental health, in that my self-esteem was attacked, my physical body was attacked, my intelligence was attacked, all on a daily basis. And to be able to get from that to this has been the journey. And that's the first part of it, absolutely the first part.
So would you say that the traumatic experiences, is that what helped you to get into this field? Is that what taught you? Because you said helped, taught, and encouraged. So what part of the experience, your life really helped you?
To pick this experience, because I began thinking I would be a teacher. That's what I wanted to be at first when I got old enough to start making a decision about my life. I thought I wanted to be a teacher because one of the angels in my life was a teacher. One of my very important angels was a teacher, and I just knew I wanted to be a teacher. And then I experienced understanding therapy and how it worked from this teacher. So it was
Right.
difficult for me to find a therapist that looked like me, and
Ah,
a therapist that understood my story in a way that
mhm,
didn't make me feel like I was not validated in therapy. I was told
hmm,
a lot of times that, all the anger that I was experiencing, you really should, try to find a happy thought or move along and all these other things. And I was like, no, that didn't help. So I tried that in my adolescence. So I didn't
okay.
do that. I went on to try to be a therapist. And I guess what really put me in this lane is the birth of my first child.
Okay. Okay. So the birth of your first child helped you, did open your eyes to receive love and try something different? Because what I really gathered from your previous answer was that love was not really present. So the birth of your first child, I'm just going off of what I'm hearing. So if
Yeah,
I'm wrong,
you're
please
right.
correct.
You're
But
right.
as a licensed intern, I'm like, oh, we were taught to, pick up on certain things and then pull things out. So I want to make sure I'm pulling out the right things here.
Yes.
However, with the birth of your child, opening up your heart to love, was that something that was new for you and you were willing to try it?
When you're raised in an environment where love is synonymous with abuse, hatred, judgment, and fear,
Mhm.
absolutely. Because I gave birth to my daughter and was like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this.
Okay.
Because I knew what I had experienced was not what I wanted to do. Right.
Yeah.
So I panicked and prayed, and, and it was like, it just, okay, you do know what not to do. Right? I knew not to be physically abusive to my child, not to be verbally abusive to my child. I knew what not to do. And I went into therapy to find out what to do. I started reading books about parenting, and because the problem with trauma is a lot of times people go from one extreme to the other. And
Is
there's
this
an example of that in my life as well, that either you overparent your children or you will underparent your children, and trying to find that middle place. And I'm grateful that I was able to find that middle place where I was able to do something I had not had modeled for me, and that was be a according to my children, be a good mom. And of course, they can only be the ones that can judge that. No one else can. And they, as far as I've been able to assess, they like me. So I did something right.
Well, I will say this in this conversation thus far, I can sense that you are likable and lovable. So I'm going to agree with your children. What I'm liking the most is that your answers lead me to other questions. So I thank you. I may not stick with one topic, but I heard you say something in particular that you panicked and prayed. Can we deal with that for a moment? Because in today's society, being, everybody want to run back to Jesus because of what the government's dealing with, but amen, we'll pray for the nation. My question is this: is it truly possible for people of faith to actually panic and pray?
Oh, absolutely. Because
You want
panic
to
is what
elaborate
brings
for
you to
me?
prayer. A lot of times, that's what brings us to prayer is panic.
Oh.
I was in labor and delivery and had a whole complete total panic attack
Mhm.
when it hit me. that I am now responsible for an entire human being and their life. And
Yes.
all the time that I meet a lot of people when they are having children, they just, because we just do it. So, whittly, whittly diddly, we don't realize the magnitude. And I did in that moment because what happened in my childhood, I realized that I had a huge responsibility and I wanted to try and do it the best I can. And I'm definitely not sitting here saying that I did everything right. Please believe me, as much as my children love me, they know I was not perfect and I'm okay with that.
Right.
All I know is they know that I did try.
Well, do you think that that's part of the issue these days that a lot of parents are having, trying to live up to whatever this thing, I think it's society, whatever that name is, but they're trying to have these standards for people? Do you think that's part of the issue as to why parenting, and even with, well, I say faith, some people say religion, but that's another topic too for us to discuss, it's such a big issue
Yes.
because people are torn. Okay.
Yes, it is. Not to, because we're going to be doing some other episodes and we're going to definitely hit all of those things. Um, but unfortunately, and I actually read this in a book on parenting, people who survive trauma parent from their pain.
Well,
Right. And if they feel like their mother was too strict, then they are like very lackadaisical and not disciplinary and not structural with their children. That is kind of what happens a lot. And I really wanted to try and find that middle place to where I didn't put my pain onto my children. And unfortunately, at the time during their early childhood, I hadn't found a decent therapist. So I was really fumbling through books and trying to, listen to them and see what it is they needed. So that was we're talking about getting over hurdles. That was a big one. That was a big one because I really did not see any room for error when there was room for error. Parents can mess up, but you got to make sure that you apologize and take responsibility for it and be accountable. So that was a huge hurdle for me because I had not been parented. It took me 40 years to realize that I had never actually been parented, hardly at all.
wow. So with that being something that you overcame, and because you actually didn't have a therapist that looked like you, define from your own self, what is a decent therapist for you?
Therapists are like shoes, right? You go to a big store at like Dillard's or Macy's or somewhere, and all of the shoes are on sale. Even the ones in your size, all of those are not for you, right?
But
You
they got my size.
if you shop like I do, I just kind of walk down the aisle and see which ones jump out at me, right? But I look at a lot of shoes, and therapists are like that. And I did that when I really realized that I needed some additional help to deal with my anger, to deal with my sadness, to deal with my religious confusion, to deal with all of the things that come low self-esteem because you can't teach what you don't have. A lot of people say, I want to be a good mother. You didn't have a good mother, so where did you learn to be a good mother from?
Okay.
I'm not trying to, be rude, but I'm just trying to be realistic, right?
Right.
So it's just I didn't know. So I looked and looked and looked, and then I did find one, and I found one, and it's not just necessarily a black thing. It's a thing of someone understanding the journey from foster care in a strict cult-like religious environment and all of the anger and all of the pain and all of the things that come with those types of environments. And my perfect therapist was a therapist that was able to say, yes, and you should be angry. You should be flipping completely out trying to decide whether or not we're gonna cuss on this thing or not. But I just wanted, I'm gonna keep it clean for the first episode. But yeah, she validated the fact that I had been raised by a narcissistic sociopath who got off on torturing small children. So,
Wow.
and from then she had my attention. And we
Okay.
did some great work with anger, with resentment, religious confusion, all of the things that we will definitely get into at a later date. But that was pivotal in my turnaround for real.
I think that's amazing. And you said something that was very profound, that the once she not so much as validated, but one she was able to assist you in allowing you to feel what you felt in a safe place. How important is that, even for therapists to have when they themselves are trying to be that safe place for their clients? How important is that?
It's the most effective part of it. If you don't feel heard or seen or, even listened to in a
Right.
therapeutic environment, then you definitely cannot get any work done, and it's basically an environment where you come and you discuss what's going on in your life and how you want to live your life better, and you want to share some intimate things that have gone on for you and some thoughts that you have that most people who love you don't know that this is something you've experienced, and you can't say certain things to certain people. I even encourage my children to go to therapy. As open as we are and as close as we are, I'm not your therapist, I'm your mother. And I am biased. I am 100% biased where you're concerned. Period.
No,
Uh,
but that's fair ethically, ma'am. No, I'm teasing. Go ahead.
no, I love them. They do get the benefit of my multiple degrees and everything, but I'm not your therapist. And I know you need to complain about me. I know I didn't do everything right. So find somebody to go process that with.
Right.
It can be easy being, being the child of someone with my pedigree. It's got to be difficult, and they are managing it, but it's always room. You don't have to be mentally ill or traumatized to go to therapy. It helps. It absolutely does help. If you don't think you have anything going on and you just don't think you need to go, you need to go. Go talk to somebody. Because there's always something you can improve about the life you're living, even if you think the life you're living is perfect.
Well, you know how society says that. No, I'll behave. One of my last two questions. My first one's going to be when it comes to trauma. Now, trauma is a very sensitive subject. However, I think I would like for you to expound on it because a lot of people don't understand that trauma and grief are almost like twins in a way because trauma can lead to grief, right? Depending on how you handle it. So can you just expound on trauma and grief for me, please?
Yeah, but no, they ain't twins. They might be first cousins.
Okay, first, well, Tay Tay and them. Okay, Tay
Yeah,
Tay.
yeah, mom and
Tay
them.
Tay.
I
Tay
get
Tay.
it. I mean, they may be first cousins.
Okay.
However, because they are two very, very different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process. It goes, it comes, it ebbs and flows like the ocean. Some
Okay.
days it's just gonna be like I'm over my head and I'm swallowing water. And some days you just gonna float on top in the middle of the ocean, not knowing where you're gonna go. But there's a whole therapeutic intervention for grief. Grief
Okay.
we have discovered is continuous. It is not something that starts and stops. Trauma is a journey of healing, right? You take those emotions and those pains and you validate them and you process them and you talk about them and you decide what role they're going to play in your decision making and in
I
your
like that definition. Thank
actions
you. Yeah.
with people
Mhm.
and individuals. So yeah, it is they're very those are two of the top because a lot of people don't know what to do with them. A lot of people do think they're the same, and they are not.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't think they are completely no, they're very, very difficult states of being.
Okay, that I appreciate that. And my last one being that, it's the two of us talking, we're two Black intelligent women. How important is it for you to share your knowledge with your own, to make sure that we're guiding and leading and helping the right way? How important is that to you?
Oh, it is the purpose. It is my purpose. Like I said, I got into this. Now today, 2025, there are thousands of Black therapists, and I am excited about that. I really, really am. Even with that being the case, culture is not necessarily a pivotal, I mean, a hinge pin to hang your therapy experience on. It does help depending on your cultural upbringing, because all Black people were not raised in the same cultural upbringing. Believe that. My foster mother was an old woman from the South, 40 when I came into her world, I believe. So it was a very different upbringing. Yes, we were in middle class California at the time, but it was a different cultural upbringing. So what you want to do is get a therapist that you can mostly relate to. Color may be a difference, maybe it make a difference for you, may not make a difference. It made a difference for me. It may not make a difference for you, but if it does, then you start with that, and then talk to that therapist about what they know and what their life experiences have been to help bring them to a place where, where you understand. If a person wants to be your therapist and they're a good therapist, they don't mind you asking them questions. So do so, because that was a major, major hurdle for me. And we mentioned, you know, incidents and situations. I had some amazing people in my life. Some of my angels were absolutely amazing. My oldest foster sister was an amazing, amazing angel for me. She protected me. She jumped in and dived in and took a couple of licks for me from the crazy lady, and you know, diverted her attention when she was, when she was coming for me when I'm a toddler. And one of my traumas is I woke up ready to go to school one day, or came home from school one day, sorry, and the foster mother had shipped her off. And she had been with me for 6 years of my life. So it was another trauma on top of a trauma. And she was one of my first angels. She was my first angel who made me believe I had some purpose in this life. I had some reason to be here. And that's important. That's important. And getting through that. And I had one other important angel, which was the teacher I was telling you about, and she was amazing. Pat was the most amazing human being for me. Literally saved my life. I was in school, and foster mother would get extra money. Most people, if you dealt with foster care, you notice you
Mhm.
get extra money if your kid is in special ed or has some extra special need, right? Been wearing glasses since I was 2, so she just heightened that and tried to make people believe I wasn't too smart. So I was in like the special class.
Oh.
Right, for a very long time. And Pat was amazing. She was my fourth grade teacher, and she was like, "Yeah, you don't belong in here." And
Hmm.
she said some very important things and went the extra mile a couple times, and literally just pulled me out of the jaws of death and crazy multiple times. So she was pretty pivotal, and I have a lot of them along my journey, and I will share about them as we go on into to these shows and different things. But pay attention to the angels in your life, because you've got them and they're there for particular reasons, and it helps you to kind of hang on to something. A lot of times we need that. We need that to help us see our way to the next thing. So how did I do that? That's part of how I did it.
I think that is amazing. I mean, your smile is infectious. So I'm just having fun with that right there. How do you keep yourself balanced when you're having your sessions with your clients, you may hear something. Do you find, and you might find yourself, remembering something. How do you find that balance?
How I
And
find that balance? I stay in therapy.
okay.
I,
Hmm.
not continuously, situationally. When my oldest sister, when she passed a few years back, I found myself going back to therapy because grief was very, very hard. The loss of her not being on this planet was extremely difficult for me, and I managed to talk that through and get that handled. So yes, I keep a therapist, and the other thing is I currently have 5 of the most amazing friends that keep me balanced, just balanced for, if I need accountability, if I need to hide a body, I got them all. I got them all. They are amazing, amazing, smart, and successful women from all walks of life. I even got a Bible throwing friend, and I got them all. And those 5 women I've been in relationship with for a very long time, and they keep me balanced. And they will be like, "Girl, have you seen your therapist?" Okay.
I think we all need that though. And that's something that I really admire about you. That's a good thing. I know we have to wrap it up a little bit, but one more, I thought I said one a few times, but why do certain memories from your past trigger us? What do you think? Why do you think
Say
certain
again?
memories, why do certain memories from our past trigger us sometimes?
Yeah, that word trigger is getting so it annoys me these days. Because
Forgive me, why
I
does it
guess
bother
people went online and Googled it or something and they're just wearing it out. This triggered me, that triggered me. Come on, man. Uh,
And that's what I wanted to have said. So,
right. Um, Mostly because it hasn't been processed. If it triggers you to move in a difficult place or a difficult way where you can't function or you're having difficulty or you're crying about something still or you're still, feeling away, then it still has not been, again, another lovely process is another word that's being used quite a bit, but basically it's saying that you have not gone to therapy and worked your way through it, talked your way to the other side of it, saw your way over through it to the other side of it, not over it, but through it. When you go through something, you demolish it. It's gone, and it's like I can talk about my childhood and all the horrible, terrible things that happened, and it's sad and it's terrible. But I'm not crying. I never did really cry. I really just kind of got mad. I would just really get super, super angry,
mhm.
which is just the opposite of angry. Angry is just depression turned inside out and on its head and flipped a few times. So it's that. It's you if you're still being triggered by something, you need to get back into somebody's office and get that handled. That's why we're here.
That's going to be a good thing. So the ultimate goal of how do they do that is just to give a safe place, allow people to have conversations, come in and talk,
Yeah.
and you give all the knowledge you have because I trust me, y'all want to hear what she has to say. She is nothing but a plethora of knowledge, a plethora of wisdom, and she's only going to tell you once. So if you are like me, you're taking notes on a regular basis, okay? Miss Felicia is not to be played with, but she's to be appreciated. God knows she's definitely appreciated in this world of mental health. So I thank you for taking this time to introduce me to all of this, introduce us to this pilot show. It's going to do great, be awesome. It's time for it. So I thank you so very much, and I look forward to seeing you soon and again. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
you are so welcome. I'm looking forward to what we're going to be discussing. A lot of how did you do that kind of things. I like it. I'm super excited, and thank you for interviewing or questioning or whatnot. All of that, having this conversation, I will say. And thank you that are listening or watching. I hope something we said was helpful. If so, please comment, like, and subscribe. I guess it's better
Yes,
at
please.
this point.
Excuse my gestures, y'all. I'm just very animated. If some got me,
You are
holler.
you so funny. All right, thank you so much. And we're gonna wrap it up here. Have a great day.
Yes.